Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're skipping the standard X's and O's of sports to do a really deep, forensic study of leadership. We're looking at how one man, Scott Brown, took the completely traditional role of a football captain and just turned it into high-stakes performance art. We're going to deconstruct the iron anchor and look at the psychology, the theater, and the absolute sheer force of will that defined an entire era at Celtic.
Okay, let's dive into this. When you hear the name Scott Brown, this is exactly the image that instantly pops into your head, right? Jaw jutted, chest puffed out, arms wide open. It's like he's literally daring the opposition to test his resolve. And this wasn't just some random stance on the pitch. This defiant physical posture fundamentally defined Celtic for 14 years. He didn't just wear a captain's armband. He became the physical embodiment of the club's institutional identity during a massively transformative era. It was this carefully crafted persona, designed to be an impenetrable shield for his teammates and a total psychological weapon against anyone standing in their way.
That brings us to Section 1, Architect of Controlled Agitation. Here's where we see how Brown totally flipped the script on modern leadership.
To really get Brown, we kind of have to throw our modern expectations out the window. Nowadays, we expect captains to be, well, diplomats. Calm, composed, PR-friendly ambassadors who shake hands and speak in safe cliches. But Scott Brown, he was the exact antithesis of that. He led through what we call controlled agitation. It's a very specific leadership strategy built on constant engagement and antagonism. By intentionally choosing to be the provocateur, the guy getting in everyone's face, he drew all the fire, all the anger, and all the attention away from his more creative, maybe more vulnerable teammates. He essentially built an architecture of disruption.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that dynamic played out in reality. In the absolute chaos and intensity of the old firm rivalry, Brown acted like a psychological mirror. He totally understood that to win, you often have to just completely shatter your opponent's rhythm. So he fully embraced becoming the ultimate villain to the Ranger support. He actually wanted that heat. Because by absorbing all that animosity, he simultaneously became the ultimate hero and shield for the Celtic faithful. It's honestly a brilliant, super effective form of psychological warfare that lets you completely dictate the terms of engagement.
Moving right along, let's explore his role as the emotional thermometer. Our source notes that he could literally dictate the temperature of a game through a single, calculated stare. Think about that for a second. His leadership was intrinsically, directly linked to his sheer physical output. He functioned as a massive force multiplier for his squad. He had this uncanny tactical intelligence where he could sense the exact microsecond his team's heads were dropping or they were losing their grip on a match. And he didn't need to hit some crazy 40-yard wonder pass to fix it. He'd just provide a psychological jolt, maybe a crunching, high-energy tackle, or even just aggressively barking orders at the referee. When he heated up, the whole team heated up. When he was calm, they found their composure.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it captures the absolute pinnacle of his on-field theater. The famous Brony celebration, standing mockingly with his arms outstretched right in front of El Hadji Diaf, was so much more than just a petty taunt. As our source points out, this was a semiotic signal. It was a high-stakes theatrical broadcast to the entire stadium, declaring absolute defiance. It's in a clear message. Celtic would not be intimidated under any circumstances. It perfectly encapsulates his unapologetic focus on asserting absolute dominance over the opponent's psyche.
But keeping up that level of intensity definitely comes at a cost, which brings us to the burden of the mask.
14. That number right there represents the immense, crushing weight of time. To maintain this intense, totally unyielding persona for 14 years, especially under the relentless, unforgiving glare of the Glasgow press, is just a staggering undertaking. It demands a level of mental endurance that is frankly difficult to even comprehend. For over a decade, Brown was the focal point. Every tabloid headline, every fan complaint, every tactical critique pointed at him. And he willingly absorbed all that crushing pressure during the lean periods just so his teammates simply didn't have to. And the forensic reality of this strategy is pretty stark. The persona became the reality. I mean, you literally cannot fake that level of intensity for a decade and a half. By committing so entirely to the role of the relentless on-field commander, he basically accepted that he was rarely ever able to switch off. His leadership was never ever about being liked by everyone. It was strictly about being effective. He understood his job description inside and out, and he executed it with ruthless consistency, no matter what personal mental toll it took to be the lightning rod for all that pressure.
Zooming out a bit, we need to look at what this all left behind. Let's look at his role as the custodian of club culture.
Let's move to and see how this builds his ultimate legacy,
providing some really rare continuity and stability in a modern sport that is normally defined by chaos and transient rosters. Step 1. He was the cultural custodian. He didn't just casually wear the badge, he hammered its meaning into every single new signing that walked through those doors. Step 2. He was the bridge between eras. He successfully navigated the club from the mid-2000s, right through severe financial crises within the rivalry, all the way to an era of unparalleled domestic dominance. He was the vital thread tying the club's historic past to its modern reality.
As we wrap up this forensic study, we arrive at our final section, a relic or a necessity. So the crucial point is this final question. Look, we know Scott Brown was abrasive, polarizing, and relentlessly intense. But we also know his specific brand of performance art made him precisely what his club needed to achieve historic success. As the professional game moves further and further into corporate, PR-conscious leadership styles, we have to ask ourselves, is the aggressive, confrontational persona of the Iron Anchor merely a relic destined to fade away? Or in the chaotic theater of elite competition, will there always be a desperate necessity for the provocateur? It's definitely a fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this deep dive gave you a totally new lens through which to view leadership.